The ice cracked under Dr. Zexith's heavy boots as he walked through the frozen tunnel. His breath came out in white clouds even though his environmental suit was keeping him warm. Behind him, 3 other scientists followed carefully, their equipment making soft beeping sounds in the cold silence. "The readings are getting stronger," said Dr. Kalari, her blue skin visible through her helmet's clear faceplate. She was from Neptune, where her people lived underwater, but she had learned to work on dry land for her research. "Whatever is. Down here has been running on power for a very long time." Dr. Zext nodded and checked his scanner again. They had been searching Earth's frozen wastelands for 6 months now, looking for clues about the humans who used to live here. The Coalition had taken over this planet 200 years ago, after the humans had all died from some terrible disease. At least that's what everyone believed. The tunnel opened up into a large room carved from solid ice. Emergency lights flickered on the walls, casting strange shadows everywhere. In the center of the room stood a metal building that looked like it had been built to last forever. "Look at this construction," whispered Vorthak, the insect-like Zorani scientist. His forearms moved quickly over his recording device. "The humans built this to survive anything. Ice storms, earthquakes, even nuclear explosions." Dr. Kalari swam closer to the building in her water-filled mobility suit. "The power source is inside. It's been running for over 2 centuries without stopping. How is that possible?" They found the entrance on the side of the building. The door was made of some metal none of them recognized, but Dr. Zexith's finally managed to cut through it. Inside, the air was warm and clean. As if someone had just left moments before, the hallway was lined with windows, and behind each window was a white pod filled with some kind of clear liquid. Most of the pods were dark and empty, but as they walked deeper into the facility, they found ones that still glowed with soft blue light. "Cryogenic preservation," said Dr. Kalari, her voice full of excitement. "The humans were trying to freeze themselves to survive whatever killed them." Dr. Zext counted the pods. 47 total. "But look, only one is still working." He pointed to a pod at the end of the hall. Unlike the others, this one hummed quietly with energy, and the liquid inside was perfectly clear. Inside the pod floated a human male. He looked young, maybe 28 Earth years old. His skin was pale but healthy, and his body showed the kind of muscle development that came from serious physical training. A small screen on the pod displayed his vital signs, all showing that he was alive and stable. "Should we wake him up?" asked Vorthak, tilting his insect head to one side. Dr. Zexith thought for a moment. "The Coalition Council will want to study a living human. We know so little about them, really. Most of our information comes from their old computer files, and those are hard to understand." Dr. Kalari was already connecting her equipment to the pod systems. "His name is Jake Morrison, according to this readout. Military rank of lieutenant. He was put into cryogenic sleep in the year 2157 during something called Operation Final Shield." "Military?" Dr. Zext frowned. "I thought humans were peaceful. All their art and music suggests they were gentle creatures." "Maybe this one was different," said Vorthak. "Or maybe they had to become soldiers when the plague started killing them." Dr. Kalari finished downloading the pod's data. "His body shows signs of some kind of enhancement. Genetic modifications, maybe some artificial improvements, but nothing too advanced. Probably just basic military upgrades to help him fight better." Dr. Zext made his decision. "We'll take him back to the Cosmic Dawn if we can wake him up safely. We might finally learn what really happened to the humans." It took them 6 hours to carefully move the pod from the underground facility to their ship. Jake Morrison never moved during the transport, floating peacefully in his artificial sleep. The ship's medical bay was prepared with every kind of equipment they might need. Dr. Kalari began the revival process slowly. "I'm raising his body temperature gradually. Too fast and we could damage his brain. Humans are fragile compared to most Coalition species." Commander Thelzen, the ship's security chief, watched from the doorway. His reptilian eyes never left the pod. "Are we sure this is safe? We don't know anything about human diseases. What if he's carrying something that could hurt us?" "The scanners show he's perfectly healthy," Dr. Kalari replied. Besides, humans have been extinct for 200 years. Any diseases they had are long dead too. Hours passed. Jake's body slowly warmed up and his heart began beating stronger. His brain activity increased on the monitors. Finally, Dr. Kalari drained the liquid from the pod and opened the top. Jake Morrison opened his eyes. He looked around slowly, blinking in the bright lights. His breathing was steady but careful. Like someone who was trying to figure out where he was, Dr. Kalari leaned over him with a gentle smile. Hello, she said in English, which all Coalition scientists had learned. My name is Dr. Kalari. You are safe. Do you understand me? Jake's eyes focused on her blue face and water-filled helmet. For just a moment, something flickered in his expression, but then he looked confused and scared. Where dar? He asked weakly. His voice was rough from not being used for so long. What happened to the base? Where is everyone else? Doctor. Zexstage stepped forward. You have been asleep for a very long time, Jake Morrison. Over 200 years. We found you in a frozen facility on Earth. Jake tried to sit up, but his muscles were still weak from the long sleep. 200 years? That's impossible. The war was just starting. We were supposed to be awakened when the enemy was defeated. What war? Asked Vorthak, his forearms moving excitedly over his recording device. What enemy? Jake looked at each of them, his eyes moving from the blue-skinned Neptunian to the insect-like Zerani to the tall, gray-skinned Viridian. You're not human, he said quietly. No, we are not, said Dr. Zext kindly. We are scientists from the Galactic Coalition. We have been studying your world since your people died out. You are the first living human any of us have ever seen. Died. Out? Jake's voice was barely a whisper. All of them? Dr. Kalari nodded sadly. A plague took your species about 200 years ago. We're sorry, you may be the last human alive in the galaxy. Jake closed his eyes and was quiet for a long time. When he opened them again, there were tears on his face. Everyone I knew is gone, my unit, my friends, my family. All dead. We want to help you, said Dr. Kalari. We want to learn about your people, and maybe you can learn about us. You don't have to be alone, Jake nodded slowly. I guess I don't have much choice. Thank you for saving me. Commander Thelzin relaxed a little. The human seemed harmless enough. Sad and confused, but not dangerous. We'll prepare quarters for you. Nothing fancy, but you'll be comfortable. As they helped Jake out of the medical bay, none of them noticed how carefully he was watching everything. They didn't see how his eyes tracked every door, every security camera, every weapon on Commander Thelzin's belt. They missed the way. His muscles moved under his skin, too coordinated for someone who had just woken up from centuries of sleep. Jake Morrison was exactly what he appeared to be, a human soldier who had lost everything he cared about. But he was also something the Coalition had never encountered before, something their databases had no information about, something that would change everything. They thought they knew about the galaxy. He was a weapon designed to wake up when the universe needed saving. Jake Morrison sat on the edge of his bed in the small room they had given him. 3 days had passed since he woke up, and every day brought new surprises about how different the galaxy had become. The aliens had been kind to him, bringing him food and trying to make him comfortable, but he could see the cameras watching him from every corner. Dr. Kalari entered his room, carrying a medical scanner and a friendly smile. Good morning, Jake. How are you feeling today? Better, Jake said, and it was true. His body was getting stronger every hour, but he was careful not to show it. Still tired, though. Everything feels strange. That's normal after such a long sleep. Today I'd like to run some more tests, if that's okay with you. We want to make sure you're completely healthy. Jake nodded and stood up slowly, pretending that his legs were still weak. In reality, he felt stronger than he had ever felt in his life. The genetic modifications that the military had given him were working perfectly, but the aliens didn't. Need to know that yet? They walked to the medical bay together? Jake noticed everything as they moved through the ship. He counted the security cameras, memorized the door codes that Dr. Kalari entered, and mapped out the corridor layout in his mind. The ship was impressive, but it was built for science, not war. Its defenses would be easy to overcome if he needed to dot in the medical bay. Dr. Kalari had him lie down on an examination table. I'm going to scan your bone structure today. We've never seen human bones before, and the initial readings were quite interesting. The scanner hummed over Jake's body, and Dr. Kalari's expression changed from curious to confused to amazed. She ran the scan 3 more times, checking her equipment each time. This can't be right, she muttered to herself. What's wrong? Jake asked, trying to sound worried. Your bone density is incredible. It's 3 times thicker than any coalition species I've studied. And your muscle fibers. She paused, staring at her readings. Jake, how much could you lift when you were in the military? Jake thought quickly. He had to give them some truth, but not too much. I was pretty strong. Maybe 200 pounds on a good day. Dr. Kalari looked at her scanner again. According to this, you should be able to lift over 1,000 pounds. Maybe more. That's impossible, Jake said, sitting up on the table. I'm not that strong. I was just a regular soldier. But Dr. Kalari wasn't convinced. She brought over a small weight that was used for testing patient strength. It was made of dense metal and weighed about 50 pounds. Try to lift this, just to see how your muscles are working after the long sleep. Jake picked up the weight with one hand, making sure to act like it was difficult. To him, it felt like lifting a feather, but he pretended to struggle. It's pretty heavy. Dr. Kalari made notes on her computer. Your strength is definitely above normal human levels, according to our old records. The genetic modifications in your file must have been more advanced than we thought. Later that day, Jake met with Dr. Zex and Vorthak in what they called the Cultural Exchange Room. It was a comfortable space with chairs designed for different alien body types and a large view screen showing the stars outside. We'd like to learn about human culture, Dr. Zex said, and we'd like to tell you about the galaxy as it is now. Would that be interesting to you? Yes, Jake said. I want to understand what happened after my people died. Vorthak activated the view screen and images of different alien worlds appeared. The Galactic Coalition was formed about 150 years ago. 7 species working together for peace and scientific advancement. Jake studied each image carefully. The aliens had built impressive cities and developed advanced technology. But something about their military ships looked wrong. They were designed for exploration and transport, not for serious combat. What about enemies? Jake asked. Surely someone in the galaxy disagreed with the coalition. Dr. Zex and Vorthak exchanged glances. Well, there have been some problems recently. About 50 years ago, we encountered a species that doesn't want to join the coalition. They call themselves the Devourers. What do they want? Everything, Dr. Zex said quietly. They consume entire star systems. Planets, moons, even stars themselves. They turn everything into energy for their ships and machines. Jake kept his expression neutral, but inside he was thinking fast. The Devourers. That name was in his mission files, buried deep in his memory. The enemy that humanity had been preparing to fight when he was put into cryogenic sleep. How many coalition worlds have they taken? He asked. 47 systems, Vorthak said sadly. We've had to evacuate billions of people. Our military does what it can, but the Devourers are too strong. Their technology is beyond anything we understand. What did the humans think about the Devourers? Jake asked carefully. Did they ever encounter them? Dr. Zex shook his head. Your people were already gone when the Devourers first appeared. From what we found in human databases, you never met them. You were dealing with your plague when they started attacking the Outer Rim worlds. Jake nodded, but he knew that wasn't true. Humanity had known about the Devourers long before the coalition. His mission briefings had been very clear about that. But if the aliens thought humans had never encountered them, that meant something important. It meant humanity's real plans had stayed secret. That evening, Jake was alone in his room when alarms started blaring throughout the ship. Red lights flashed in the corridors, and he could hear the crew running to their emergency stations. Through his small window, he saw other ships in the distance, all moving in the same direction. Dr. Kalari burst into his room without knocking. "Jake, we have to move you to a secure location. There's been a Devourer sighting 3 systems away." "How dangerous is that?" Jake asked, standing up quickly. "Very dangerous. When the Devourers appear, everyone runs. We're joining the evacuation fleet." As they hurried through the corridors, Jake saw the crew's faces. They were terrified. These aliens, for all their advanced technology and peaceful cooperation, were completely helpless against a real threat. They had built a wonderful civilization, but they had forgotten how to fight. In the secure room where Dr. Kalari left him, Jake sat quietly and thought about everything he had learned. The coalition was exactly what his commanders had predicted: smart, peaceful, and utterly unprepared for war. The Devourers were still out there, still consuming worlds, still growing stronger, but there was something else, something that made Jake smile for the first time since waking up. Dr. Kalari had mentioned other pods in the facility where they found him. Most were empty, but she had said there were signs that others might still be viable. Jake closed his eyes and accessed his military implants, carefully so the alien sensors wouldn't detect them. Deep in his enhanced memory were protocols and codes that he hadn't thought about in centuries. Emergency revival sequences, activation signals, and most importantly, the locations of other hidden facilities across the galaxy. He wasn't alone after all. Humanity hadn't died out, and they hadn't been defeated by any plague. They had gone to sleep, waiting for the right moment to wake up, and that moment was coming soon. Jake Morrison had been designed to be the first awakening, the scout who would assess the situation and decide if it was time to bring humanity back. Looking at these frightened aliens who were losing a war they didn't know how to fight, he knew his answer. The galaxy needed its guardians again. Outside his window, the evacuation fleet continued to grow as more ships arrived from the threatened systems. None of the aliens knew that help was already among them, sleeping in hidden places, waiting for the signal to wake up and remember what they were made to do. The Devourers had been winning for 50 years, but they had never fought humanity. Before that was about to change. The second pod made soft bubbling sounds as the liquid inside began to warm up. Jake watched from behind the observation glass as Dr. Kalari worked at the control panel. 3 weeks had passed since the Devourer alert, and the alien scientists had decided to try waking up the other viable human they had found in the facility. "The revival process should take about 6 hours, Dr. Kalari said to Jake. "Are you excited to meet another member of your species?" Jake nodded, but inside he was nervous. He had no idea which soldier was in that pod. It could be anyone from his unit, and he wasn't sure how they would react to waking up surrounded by aliens. He hoped whoever it was would be smart enough to play along like he had been doing. "What can you tell me about this person?" Dr. Zex asked, reading from his scanner. "The nameplate says Lisa Parker, also a lieutenant. She was frozen on the same day as you?" "Lisa," Jake said, and this time his relief was real. Lisa Parker had been one of the best soldiers in his unit. If anyone could handle this situation, it was her. She was a combat engineer, very smart with machines and computers. "Excellent," said Vorthak, his insect eyes gleaming with curiosity. "Perhaps she can tell us more about human technology." Jake almost smiled at that. Lisa knew more about technology than these aliens could imagine, but they would have to discover that slowly. She was also one of the most dangerous people he had ever met, but she was very good at hiding it. Hours passed as Lisa's body slowly warmed up. Jake stayed in the medical bay, claiming he wanted to be there when she woke up. Really, he needed to be the first person she saw so he could signal her about the situation. Finally, Dr. Kalari drained the pod and opened the lid. Lisa Parker opened her green eyes and looked around the room with the same careful attention that Jake had used. When he first awakened, her brown hair was still wet from the pod liquid, and she looked exactly like she had 200 years ago. "Jake," she said weakly, her voice rough from the long sleep. "Where are we? What happened to the mission?" "It's okay, Lisa," Jake said, moving closer to the pod. As he helped her sit up, he made quick hand signals that they had learned in the military. Enemy present. Play dumb, follow my lead. Lisa's eyes flickered almost invisibly, the only sign that she had understood. I feel terrible, she said out loud. How long were we asleep? Dr. Kalari stepped forward with her gentle smile. Hello, Lisa Parker. My name is Dr. Kalari. You have been in cryogenic sleep for over 200 years. Lisa stared at the blue-skinned alien in shock, and Jake had to admire her acting. She looked exactly like someone who was seeing an alien for the first time. You're not human, she whispered. No, I'm not. I'm from Neptune. These are my colleagues, Dr. Zext, Ich, and Vorthak. We're scientists from the Galactic Coalition. We found you and Jake in a frozen facility on Earth. Earth? Lisa tried to stand up, and Jake helped her, both of them pretending she was weaker than she really was. What happened to Earth? Where is everyone? Dr. Zext H stepped forward sadly. I'm afraid your species died out about 200 years ago. A plague took all of humanity. You and Jake may be the last humans alive? Lisa's face showed exactly the right amount of grief and shock. Jake knew she was thinking the same thing he had thought when he first heard this story. It was a good cover, and it meant their real mission had stayed secret. Over the next few days, Lisa went through the same tests that Jake had experienced. She pretended to struggle with simple tasks while secretly observing everything around her. The aliens were fascinated by the differences between the two humans. Lisa's brain shows more activity in the technical processing areas, Dr. Kalari explained to Jake as they watched Lisa work with a simple computer interface. She seems to understand our technology much faster than we expected. That was an understatement. Jake could see that Lisa had already figured out the basic principles of the alien computer systems. She was probably 3 steps away from being able to hack into anything on the ship, but she was being very careful to hide her real abilities. She was always good with machines, Jake said, even before the genetic modifications. Dr. Zext looked up from his notes. What kind of genetic modifications did your military use? We're seeing some interesting changes in both of you. Jake had prepared for this question. Basic stuff. Better reflexes, stronger bones, improved healing, nothing too advanced. Our technology wasn't as good as yours. The alien scientists accepted this explanation, but Jake noticed that Commander Thelzen was watching both humans more carefully now. The reptilian security chief seemed suspicious. Even though he never said anything directly, that evening, Jake and Lisa were allowed to eat dinner together in a small dining room. The aliens thought they were being kind by letting the two humans comfort each other, but really they wanted to observe how humans interacted socially. This food isn't bad, Lisa said, taking a bite of something that looked like purple vegetables. As she spoke, she used their military sign language to ask Jake about the ship's defenses. Jake responded with hand signals while talking about how much he missed Earth food. He told her about the weapon systems, the security protocols, and the alien crew's capabilities. Lisa signaled back that she had already identified 17 ways to take control of the ship's computer network. I hope we can learn to fit in with the Coalition, Jake said out loud, while his hands told Lisa about the Devourers and the war that was happening. Me too, Lisa replied, her signs indicating that she remembered the Devourers from their original mission briefings. These people seem very nice. Dr. Kalari, who was watching them from the doorway, smiled at their conversation. She couldn't see the complex discussion happening with their hands, and she interpreted their words as exactly what two lonely humans would say to each other. Later that night, alarms began blaring again throughout the ship. Jake and Lisa were both in their rooms when the emergency started, but they could hear the crew running through the corridors and shouting orders. Commander Thelzen appeared at Jake's door. We need to move both of you to the secure area again. There's been another Devourer attack. As they hurried through the ship, Jake saw that this alert was different from the last one. The crew wasn't just scared, they were panicking. Through the windows, he could see Coalition ships everywhere, but many of them looked damaged. What happened? Lisa asked as they reached the secure room. The Devourers hit the Centauri system, Commander Thelzen said grimly. 4 billion people lived there. We managed to evacuate maybe half of them before the planet was consumed. Jake and Lisa exchanged glances. The Devourers were moving faster than before, and the Coalition was losing badly. Through the room's small window, they could see refugee ships arriving constantly, packed with survivors who had lost everything. How many Coalition worlds are left? Jake asked quietly. About 60% of our original territory, Commander Thelson admitted. But the attacks are getting more frequent. Our scientists estimate we have maybe 5 years before the Devourers reach the core worlds. After the security chief left, Jake and Lisa sat in silence for a few minutes. Finally, Lisa spoke in a voice so quiet that the room's sensors couldn't pick it up. "The activation protocols," she whispered. "Are they still in your memory?" Jake nodded slightly. "All of them. Facility locations, revival codes, command structures, everything." "How many sleepers do you think are still viable?" Jake closed his eyes and accessed his enhanced memory carefully. "At least 50,000 soldiers across the galaxy, plus the fleet commanders, the technical specialists, and the advanced weapons caches." Lisa was quiet for a moment. "The aliens don't know, do they? They really think we all died." "They have no idea. As far as they know, humans were peaceful and weak. They think our military was primitive compared to Coalition technology." "Good," Lisa said with a small, dangerous smile. "That means the Devourers don't know either. They think they've been fighting the strongest species in the galaxy." Jake looked out the window at the damaged Coalition ships and the streams of refugees fleeing from another lost world. The aliens had been kind to them, and they were genuinely good people, but they were losing a war they didn't know how to fight. "It's time, isn't it?" Lisa whispered. Jake nodded slowly. The galaxy had given humanity 200 years to sleep and prepare. The Coalition had kept the peace and built a wonderful civilization, but now they needed protection from something they couldn't handle alone. "Tomorrow," Jake said quietly. "Tomorrow we start waking everyone up." Outside their window, another refugee ship docked with the station, its hull scarred from barely escaping the Devourer attack. Soon, very soon, the refugees would stop running, because humanity was about to remember what it was built to do. The power fluctuation happened at exactly 3 in the morning, ship time. Jake felt it the moment the lights dimmed in his room. The cosmic dawn was pushing all its systems to maximum power as it raced toward the evacuation point with hundreds of other Coalition ships. The refugee convoy needed every vessel it could get. Jake had been waiting for this moment. Power fluctuations meant stressed systems, and stressed systems meant security protocols might fail for just a few seconds. It was exactly what he needed. He closed his eyes and activated his military implants fully for the first time since waking up. Energy flowed through his enhanced nervous system, and suddenly he could feel every electronic device on the ship. His hearing sharpened until he could detect conversations 3 decks away. His muscles filled with strength that would have frightened the aliens if they had known about it. The containment field around his door flickered and died for exactly 4 seconds during the power surge. That was more than enough time. Jake moved faster than any Coalition species could follow. He crossed his room in a blur, tore the heavy door off its hinges with his bare hands, and stepped into the corridor. The metal door, designed to hold back emergency floodwaters, crumpled like paper in his grip. Alarms immediately started screaming throughout the ship, but Jake was already moving. He reached Lisa's room before the first security guards could respond and ripped her door away too. "About time," Lisa said, standing up calmly from her bed. She had been waiting for him. "I was getting tired of pretending to be weak. How fast can you take the ship's computer?" Jake asked, his voice different now. "The friendly, confused human?" The aliens knew was gone, replaced by something cold and professional. Lisa smiled, and her green eyes held the same dangerous light that Jake remembered from their military days. "Give me 30 seconds. They moved through the ship like ghosts made of lightning. Jake's enhanced reflexes made him nearly invisible to the security cameras, and his strength let him tear through obstacles that should have stopped any normal person. Lisa ran behind him, her fingers flying over every computer terminal they passed. Commander Thelzen appeared at the end of a corridor with 4 armed guards. "Stop right there," he shouted, raising his energy weapon. "You're supposed to be in the secure area?" Jake didn't slow down. The energy blast that Thelzen fired passed through the space where Jake had been standing a fraction of a second before. Jake was already behind the guards, moving too fast for their weapons to track. "How?" Thelzen whispered as his guards collapsed around him. Not dead, but unconscious from pressure point strikes that had happened too quickly to see. "Because you never asked the right questions," Jake said quietly. He grabbed the security chief's weapon and crushed it with one hand. The advanced metal and ceramic components broke apart like a toy. Lisa reached the main computer core 3 minutes after they had started moving. Her fingers danced across the interface with impossible speed and skill. "I'm in," she announced, taking control of communications, life support, weapons, and navigation. Dr. Kalari's voice came over the ship's communication system, confused and frightened. "Jake? Lisa? What's happening?" "Please, we just want to help you." Jake found the nearest communication panel and activated it. "Dr. Kalari, please bring Dr. Zext and Vorthak to the main computer core. We need to talk. Are you hurt? Are you having some kind of breakdown from the stress?" "No," Jake said simply. "We're fine. But there are things you need to know, and we don't have much time." When the 3 alien scientists arrived at the computer core, they found Jake and Lisa waiting calmly. Lisa's hands were still connected to the ship's main interface, but she looked completely relaxed. Jake stood beside her with his arms crossed, and both humans looked completely different from the weak, confused people the aliens thought they knew. "What's happening to you?" Dr. Zext asked, his voice full of worry. "Your vital signs are off. Our charts, your strength readings are impossible. Our vital signs are normal for what we really are," Jake said. "The readings you took before were from when we were operating at about 5% of our actual capability." Dr. Kalari stared at him. 5%? That's impossible. No organic being can suppress their capabilities like that. Humans can, Lisa said without looking up from her work. "We're very good at it." Jake walked over to a support beam that was made of the same super-strong metal as the ship's hull. He placed his hand on it and squeezed. The metal began to bend around his fingers like soft clay. "Your people have been very kind to us," Jake continued as the aliens watched in shock. "You saved our lives, gave us food and shelter, and treated us like honored guests. We appreciate that. But you lied to us," Dr. Zext said quietly. "We didn't lie about anything important," Jake replied. "We are who we said we are. We were soldiers in the human military, and we were put into cryogenic sleep during a war. Everything we told you was true." "But you made us think you were helpless," Vorthak said, his forearms trembling. Lisa finally looked up from the computer. "Would you have been comfortable around us if you had known what we could really do?" The aliens had no answer for that. "Done," Lisa announced. "I now have complete control of this ship and access to the Coalition communication network. What are you going to do to us?" Dr. Kalari asked, her blue skin pale with fear. Jake's expression softened. "Nothing. You're going to help us save the galaxy." He moved to the main view screen and activated it. "Lisa, send the activation signal." Lisa's fingers moved across the interface one more time. "Signal transmitted on all frequencies, using Coalition relay stations for maximum range." The view screen showed a star map of the galaxy. As they watched, tiny lights began appearing across Coalition space. First a few, then dozens, then hundreds. "What are those lights?" Dr. Zext asked. "Human facilities coming back online," Jake explained. "Cryogenic storage sites, weapons caches, hidden bases, and fleet staging areas. We've been sleeping all over the galaxy for 200 years, waiting for the right time to wake up." More lights continued to appear on the map. Dr. Kalari counted them with growing amazement. "There are thousands of them. 53,000? 412 soldiers in cryogenic sleep," Lisa said, reading from her display. "Plus 8,000 technical specialists, 3,000 fleet officers, and about 200 admirals." "But your people are extinct," Vorthak protested. The plague killed everyone, Jake shook his head. There was no plague. That was a cover story. When our long-range scouts detected the Devourers coming toward this part of the galaxy, we knew. We couldn't stop them with the technology we had then. So we made a different plan. What kind of plan? Dr. Zext asked. We evacuated our civilians to hidden colonies far outside Devourer space, Lisa explained. Then we put our military forces into cryogenic sleep and waited. We knew that eventually someone would need our help. Jake pointed to the refugee ships visible through the window. The Coalition has built something beautiful. A peaceful alliance of different species working together. But peace doesn't prepare you for war, and the Devourers are very good at war. So you've been watching us, Dr. Kalari said slowly. Waiting. To see if we could handle the threat ourselves. For 50 years, Jake confirmed. We hoped you could find a peaceful solution. But the Devourers don't understand peace. The view screen chimed, and Admiral Kate Sullivan's face appeared. She looked exactly like she had 200 years ago, with steel gray hair and eyes that had seen too many battles. Lieutenant Morrison? Lieutenant Parker, she said with a slight smile. Good to see you both awake. I trust our hosts have been treating you well? Very well, Admiral, Jake replied. The Coalition species are exactly what we hoped they would be. Admiral Sullivan nodded. Then it's time to give them what they need. She looked directly at the alien scientists. Dr. Kalari, Dr. Zext H. Vorthak, my name is Admiral Kate Sullivan, Commanding Officer of the Human Defense Fleet. We've been monitoring Coalition communications for the past several hours, and we understand your situation with the Devourers. You're going to help us fight them? Dr. Kalari asked hopefully. We're going to end them, Admiral Sullivan said simply. The Devourers have been a threat to galactic civilization for too long. Humanity went to sleep specifically to prepare for this. War, Jake turned to face the alien scientists. You have a choice to make. You can work with us as partners, sharing command of the war effort and helping to coordinate the defense of Coalition worlds. Or you can step aside and let us handle this alone. What guarantee do we have, Dr. Zext H. asked carefully, that humanity won't simply take over the galaxy after the Devourers are defeated? Jake looked at Lisa, then at Admiral Sullivan on the screen, then back at the aliens who had saved his life and treated him with nothing but kindness. The same guarantee you've had for the past 200 years, he said quietly. We could have conquered you at any time. We chose not to. We chose to sleep instead and wait until you needed us. Outside the window, the lights of the evacuation fleet stretched into the distance, carrying billions of refugees away from another lost world. But now, for the first time in 50 years, those refugees wouldn't have to keep running, because humanity had finally decided to wake up. The Devourer scout ship dropped out of hyperspace like a dark cancer against the stars. It was massive, easily 3 times the size of the largest Coalition vessel, and its black hull seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it, wherever it had come from. It had brought death with it. Jake stood on the bridge of the Cosmic Dawn, watching the Coalition evacuation fleet scatter in panic. Hundreds of ships carrying refugees from the Centauri system were desperately trying to reach the jump points before the Devourer could attack them. It's moving toward the transport ships, Commander Thelson said, his reptilian voice tight with fear. Even though Jake and Lisa had taken control of his ship, he remained at his post. Those vessels have no weapons, no defenses. It's going to slaughter them all. Dr. Kalari stood beside the command chair, her blue skin pale with terror. Can your admiral help them? Her ships are too far away. Admiral Sullivan's face appeared on the main screen, and she looked completely calm despite the chaos around them. Jake, Lisa, are you ready for a field test? Yes, Admiral, Lisa replied from the weapons console. She had been working there for the past hour, her hands moving faster than the alien crew could follow. I've finished the modifications. Jake moved to the captain's chair and placed his hand on the command interface. The ship's computer immediately responded to his touch, recognizing him through his military implants. All crew members, please hold on to something secure. Dr. Zext H looked confused. What modifications? This is a science vessel. We don't have military weapons. You do now, Lisa said with a small smile. The Cosmic Dawn began to move, but not like any coalition ship had ever moved before. It accelerated smoothly toward the Devourer scout ship, gaining speed that should have been impossible for a vessel of its size and design. How are we moving so fast? Vorthak asked, his forearms gripping his station tightly. Human technology, Jake explained. Simply, we've been installing upgrades in coalition ships for decades. Most of your vessels have human components that you don't even know about. The Devourer scout ship detected their approach and turned toward them. Its forward weapons began charging, creating a glow like a red star preparing to explode. It fired. The energy beam was powerful enough to destroy a city. Lisa activated the ship's defenses at the last second. A barrier of blue light appeared around the Cosmic Dawn, and the Devourer weapon struck it harmlessly. The energy that should have vaporized them simply disappeared. Impossible, Commander Thelsen whispered. No coalition ship has shields that strong. No coalition ship has shields at all, Lisa corrected him. That's human technology, too. The Devourer scout ship fired again, and again the barrier held. Jake could see the confusion in the enemy vessel's movements. For 50 years, the Devourers had swept aside coalition defenses like they were made of paper. They had never encountered anything that could stop their weapons. Now, Jake said quietly. Lisa pressed a single button on her console. The front section of the Cosmic Dawn opened up, revealing a weapon that had never appeared on any coalition. Blueprint. It was sleek and silver, and it hummed with power that made the air itself vibrate. What is that? Dr. Kalari asked in amazement. A planet cracker? Admiral Sullivan said from the screen. Designed specifically to fight Devourers. We've had 200 years to prepare for this moment. The weapon fired once. There was no dramatic light show, no massive explosion. The beam simply touched the Devourer scout ship, and the massive vessel began to come apart. Its hull dissolved like sugar in water, and within seconds, nothing remained but empty space and a few pieces of floating debris. The coalition evacuation fleet had stopped running, and was now staring at the small science vessel that had just destroyed their greatest enemy with a single shot. Jake could see hundreds of alien faces pressed against windows, trying to understand what they had just witnessed. Admiral, Jake said, please show them what we're really capable of. Admiral Sullivan nodded, and the star map appeared on the screen again. But now it showed much more than just the awakening human facilities. Ships were appearing throughout coalition space, emerging from hidden bases and asteroid fields where they had waited for centuries. The human defense fleet consists of 12,000 vessels, Admiral Sullivan announced. Each one is equipped with weapons and defenses that are centuries ahead of current coalition technology. We also have ground forces, orbital platforms, and manufacturing facilities that can produce more ships as needed. Dr. Zext H was staring at the map with his mouth open. 12,000 ships? Where were you hiding them? Everywhere, Jake replied. We've been your neighbors for 200 years. Some of our bases are built inside asteroids in your own star systems. Others are hidden in deep space, powered down and waiting. Lisa brought up another display showing the current positions of Devourer forces. There were hundreds of enemy ships, scattered across the galaxy, all of them moving toward coalition worlds. The Devourers have been winning because they fight like a swarm. They overwhelm defenders with numbers and superior technology. But they've never fought an enemy that was ready for them, Jake continued. An enemy that spent 2 centuries studying their tactics and building weapons specifically designed to kill them. Admiral Sullivan's expression became serious. Dr. Kalari, as the ranking coalition representative present, I need an answer. Will the coalition accept human assistance in this war? Dr. Kalari looked at her colleagues, then at Jake and Lisa. What are your terms? No terms, Jake said. We're not conquerors. We're guardians. We protect civilizations that can't protect themselves. But surely you want something in return, Commander Thelsen said suspiciously. Resources, territory, political control? Lisa laughed, and it was a sound without humor. Commander, we've had complete access to your computer networks for 50 years. If we wanted your resources, we would have taken them. If we wanted your territory, we would already own it. Then why help us? Dr. Zex asked quietly. Why did you sacrifice your own civilization to sleep in ice for 2 centuries? Jake walked over to the window where he could see the refugee ships. Millions of aliens who had lost their homes, their families, their entire worlds to the Devourers. Children who would never see their birth planets again. Families torn apart by a war they couldn't fight? Because someone has to, he said simply. The galaxy is full of species like yours. Good people who build beautiful things and try to live in peace. But the universe is also full of things like the Devourers. Someone has to stand between the builders and the destroyers. Admiral Sullivan leaned forward on the screen. The Coalition has a choice to make. You can maintain your independence and work with us as equal partners in this war. Or you can refuse our help and watch your civilization die. But understand this, we're going to fight the Devourers either way. Dr. Kalari was quiet for a long moment, thinking. Finally, she spoke. What guarantee do we have that you won't turn on us after the war is over? Jake turned away from the window and looked directly at her. Doctor, we've been able to conquer you at any time for the past 2 centuries. The fact that we didn't should tell you everything you need to know about human intentions. We're not here to rule you. We're here to save you. He paused and his voice became harder. Whether you want us to or not? On the screen, Admiral Sullivan was already giving orders to the human fleet. Across the galaxy, ships that had slept in darkness for 200 years were coming to life. Weapons that had never been tested in battle were powering up. Soldiers who had volunteered to sacrifice everything for the greater good were waking up to find that their time had finally come. The Devourers had been the apex predators of the galaxy for 50 years. They had consumed worlds and destroyed civilizations without ever meeting serious resistance, but they had never fought humanity before. They had never encountered a species that would sacrifice their own golden age to sleep in ice, waiting for the moment when the galaxy would need them most. The age of running was over. The age of fighting back had begun. Dr. Kalari looked at Jake one more time, seeing him clearly for the first time since he had awakened. Not a confused refugee from a dead civilization, but something far more dangerous and far more reassuring. On behalf of the Galactic Coalition, she said formally, we accept your partnership. Jake nodded. Then let's go save the galaxy. Outside the window, the human fleet was already moving toward the next Devourer target. After 2 centuries of patience, humanity was finally going to war.